So my name is Billy Mitchell. I've been guiding now for three or 4 years officially. Really focus on striped bass. This time of year, you know, I'm fishing a lot of Buzzards Bay, south of the Cape, south side, around the islands. And then during the summer, it's mostly Cape Cod Bay, Plymouth Bay. And then in the spring, I'm kind of working backwards here. You're back down here and doing the first arrival of the stripers. So. When I think Cape, I think stripers, and I think a lot of people are the same way. We're kind of in a unique path for the migration for stripers. They have to come through us to get to points north. And we have a really good population of fish that come and they hang out in Buzzards Bay or they hang out in Cape Cod Bay throughout the year. Whereas if you're down in Jersey or down in New York, you're getting a good wave of fish early and then they're kind of leaving and then you get them on the way back down. So we're in the unique position where we get those transient fish. We get huge waves of migratory fish in the spring, but they actually take up residence in certain locations around here. So we're in Buzzards Bay right now. We have an incredible amount of structure. I mean, we saw it when we were coming in. Cape Cod Canal runs through here. The current was running close to 6 knots, I think, today. It was just nuts. So if you get fish that are holed up in there, you can get them on pretty much any style of fishing that you want. You can fish fly with a really heavy sinking line. You can fish poppers, jigs, anything like that. Throughout Buzzards Bay, you have incredible amount of rock piles. It's a very rocky area compared to Cape Cod Bay. So you can throw into structure, troll over it, and stripers, of course, are called rockfish, so we know where they're hanging. There's flats that you can fish, and if you were to wade out here in a couple of these islands, you'd think, and if it was a sunny day, you'd think you were in the Bahamas going for bonefish. So that's a cool aspect too. Up in Cape Cod Bay, there's a lot more sandy structure. That's where the flats fishing really shines, I would say. You've got areas like Brewster, up around Race Point, and then my home area, which is Plymouth, that really have excellent flats fishing for stripers. When you're fishing stripers in that type of water, it's really like bonefish. You're stalking them, you're looking for shadows, you're throwing them crab patterns or little jigs or unweighted soft plastic. So the ways in which we can target stripers is just incredible in this area, and we can run 10 miles this way and be fishing in a completely different area. You wouldn't even think we'd be in the same location. So it's really incredible in that sense, I think. So we're really in the midst of the fall run right now. I think we're trending a little bit towards the end of it, but right now is really where things start to come together. We have, in Buzzards Bay especially, we have an incredible amount of estuaries and harbors and rivers, and throughout the summer, everything's spawning in there. We have menhaden or bunker or pogies, silversides, mackerel, herring. They're all spawning up inside the rivers. And what happens this time of year is they're born and they flush out into the open ocean. Well, guess who finds them? It's the stripers and the false albacore and the bluefish. So that really is what starts the fuel for the fall run. You have the Cape Cod Canal. If this essentially acts as a choke point for stripers. So what happens is when they're on their move south, when they get the sense that it's time to go, water temperatures start cooling. We actually have about 10-degree difference in water temperatures 2 weeks ago compared to right now, which is incredible. So when they get that sense, they know it's time to move south. When they're on their way, if there's bait, they're going to stop. So Buzzards Bay is a really great place to come in and kind of intercept that fall migration. Again, you're going to run into an incredible amount of bait. We saw it today. It was completely stacked up. The other thing about the fall migration is it's a little bit fickle, because some days you'll come in here and you'll catch the migration head on, and you'll come out and you'll immediately know it's incredibly fishy. You'll see the birds diving, you'll see all the bait. Those are the great days. Another tide later, those fish might have moved south. So it's really difficult to plan during the fall run. You have to be kind of ready at a moment's notice. Have good friends on the water who can text you and say it's going off, and then hopefully you have the free time to come out and actually do it. This time of year can also drive you crazy, I think, and for that same reason I just mentioned. You feel like you have to get all your fishing in right now. It is cold out right now. All of a sudden temperatures drop, fish get a little more scarce, so there's kind of that urgency to it. You really feel like you need to squeeze out every little drop of fishing right now, because in 3 weeks, I'll say, we may have a couple schoolies kicking around, but this run's going to be over and we got to wait till April. And that's a long couple months that we have to wait to target our stripers again. We have a lot of smaller stripers around here, and that's been the trend the past couple of years. These fish get really finicky for whatever reason. They don't always eat what you want them to eat when you're throwing lures to them. So the best lure that we've used, that we found this year, is any type of top water walk the dog, especially in bone lure. So something like the jumping minnow, or the Shimano hydro pencil, or the head-on Zara spook. Those are really incredible lures when they get finicky, and you can take some big fish on them too. For whatever reason, the top water lures with that nice walk the dog action tends to cull out the larger fish. They tend to come up and eat it. This is especially true in the spring. We have some really large bait fish that come through Cape Cod Bay, and when the bass find them, it can be really red hot fishing. So you have adult pogies, adult sea herring, and adult mackerel. When they come through, you're going to want to throw something a little bit larger, but that top water walk the dog style lure is really incredible. It'd be a shame if I didn't mention the Muskie Mania dock spook. That's the 9-inch top water lure that striper fishermen tried to keep quiet, I think, for 5 or 6 years, but now if you don't have a dock on your boat, you're doing it wrong. So everyone's got to have one of those things on there. So we used to use a lot of Daiwa SP minnows around, especially when the fish were on bigger bait. But when the fish got finicky, we had to figure out a way to get them to eat when they wouldn't eat kind of that erratic swimming lure. The one thing we found is unweighted soft plastics. Stripers just go ballistic for them. We're throwing the Albi snacks in bone. They really love that. Sluggos, they really love those too. And essentially we're just throwing them out there and dead sticking them. So you throw it out, you let it sink a little bit, couple twitches, and you usually get the eats on that. For Albies, we're throwing, I mentioned the Albi snacks. There's a lot of epoxy jigs on the market right now, and we're throwing the Hoagie epoxy jig, 5/8 ounce or so. The magic color changes every day depending on who you ask, but we're throwing bone a lot of the time. Electric chicken's great, glow is great, something that's going to get their attention. So that's really the only thing we're throwing for Albies aside from the Albi snacks. So I think people come into the ocean and they go for stripers and they expect to need these huge broomsticks. I see people come out with big surf casting rods, and I ask them, why do you have such a heavy rod? You can use something a lot lighter. They said, well, what if I catch that fish of a lifetime? And believe me, I thought the same thing. But 99% of what you're throwing to stripers can be handled by a light tackle spinning rod like this, the LRS 785F. This rod has pretty much handled everything we've thrown at it. It throws the really light, unweighted soft plastics exceptionally well. It throws those Daiwa SP minnows that I talked about and those larger spooks. It really has enough backbone to handle any fish that you're going to catch in here. We got a 12-pound false albacore on this recently. It was bent in pretty much a U, which was really cool to see, all the way down to the water. But it worked flawlessly. 18-pound bluefish we got recently was caught on this rod. So it really bridges the gap, I think, between the really ultralight tackle rod that people are throwing and then that kind of broomsticky 4-ounce spinning rod that you see a lot of people use. So don't be afraid to go light with your spinning setups, especially if you're going out to target stripers, false albacore, bluefish. You really don't need to go heavier than 30-pound braid. We use 20-pound braid for these. This is a 4,000 size reel. We'll go to 3 and 4,000. Occasionally we'll go up to 5,000, but we find we don't really need it. So again, it's 20-pound braid. And then we use a 12-pound leader for false albacore. If the stripers are around, we'll use 20-pound leader. That's fluorocarbon. If we're on the flats and we need to have a little bit of a more finesse approach, we'll drop that down to 10 or 12-pound fluoro. With a rod like this, you really don't need to go super heavy because it gives you the flexibility and the sensitivity to be able to play those fish You know, and with a good drag, of course, you can land pretty much anything that you know, that you're facing. So if you're looking for a really versatile striper rod, you really got to check out the Douglas spinning line. They're just incredible rods. Have the utmost confidence when you're throwing it out, when you hook that fish of a lifetime, that you're going to be able to get it to the boat. So definitely check out Douglas rods. Bluefish have made an excellent resurgence recently. Bluefish are really cyclical. No one really knows anything about their life cycle or where they go. Bluefish essentially disappeared 4 years ago. No one caught a bluefish. There were a couple small ones around and that was it. Last year they showed up, and they showed up with reckless abandon. They came in, and this year we're getting a lot of 4 to 5 pound bluefish. Also up in Cape Cod Bay, we're getting 18 to 20 pound bluefish. When you hook into one of those things, you know it. They are incredible fighters, big teeth. You know, we call them gorilla blues up there. So they are a staple of the fall run. They always have been, and we're happy to see them back. Our hardtails. So these are our funny fish, as we call them. False albacore is really the prime funny fish that we target around here. They typically show up last week in August, and they'll stay until the first week in October sometimes, although if we get a big nor'east storm, they disappear earlier. Please don't disappear on us right now, false albacore. That's kind of what's on the back of everyone's mind right now. With the false albacore, we get bonito as well, and they mix in. So some kind of exotic species that come around, they require a very different strategy versus targeting bass. I talked earlier about how stripers, you can get them on structure, you can get them on the flats or in current rips. False albacore, targeting them is a very visual experience. You're cruising around and you're looking for essentially slashes through the water. These things can go up to 40 miles an hour. They go from 0 to 40 pretty much instantaneously. And what they do is they'll find these bait balls. A whole wolf pack of them will circle that bait ball and get it tightly packed and nice and neat, and then they'll slash through it for a few minutes before disappearing. So you're really looking for those slashes when you're getting the false albacore. So there's a lot of different types of guides and charters when you come on to Cape Cod and in the areas around it. The most common thing you're going to find is kind of the trolling charter, where you're going out and you're going to troll niner rigs or umbrella rigs or jigs for stripers. You have other kind of boats that will do more of the light tackle and the fly thing, and this is an exceptional area for fly fishing and for light tackle. You really can't beat it. There are a lot of guys who come out and use live bait too. We use live bait in the spring when it becomes available. We get mackerel up in Cape Cod Bay, and the bass just go crazy for them. So a lot of the time we'll fish the early morning hours, and stripers like to feed during that transitional light, especially when it's really dark and you're getting a little bit of false dawn light. So what we do most of the time is wake up early. We're out here before false dawn. We're throwing artificials into structure or around bait piles, and hopefully hooking up to fish that way. Then we'll run out offshore a little bit, get our bait, which is typically mackerel. Sometimes you'll get herring. Run inshore, and then as the day wears on, stripers are much less active as the sun comes up. So we're dropping bait down to deep structure points, and I think pretty much all of our largest fish have come on live mackerel in the past couple of years. Bass can't say no to it. There's a lot of other boats around who just do the live bait thing, but Seven Stripes, we want to mix in that, the tossing lures to fish, tossing top water lures, and trying to find out those blitzes, because catching big fish is great. I mean, everyone wants to catch a big fish. I want to catch a big fish, but there's something really special about encountering a topwater blitz for stripers, and about casting something out and feeling that tug and setting the hook and actually, catching it and really, so we really want to focus on that. So definitely come check out Seven Stripes Fishing. We're in the middle of a world-class fishery here. Striper fishing is life-changing, and I've said that for a long time. We want you to come out and make memories with your family that are going to last a lifetime.